Okay, question 26. It says for all values of x, f of x equals x squared plus 1, and g of x equals x minus 5. We're asked to first of all show that f of g of x equals x squared minus 10x plus 26. So the way these composite functions work is we start with the x, we work backwards, and we go backwards. So x, which is a value, it goes through g first, and then the output of g goes through f. Okay, so we work backwards. So x goes in, x is just a number, and it goes through g. So g was x minus 5. Now the output of g is now x minus 5. So in other words, x now stands for x minus 5. So this x minus 5 then goes through the f function, and the f function is this. So what that means is, wherever I see x, I now replace it with x minus 5. Okay, so x has gone through g, so x is now this, and then it goes into that. So I just need to put this in and then work it out. So I've got f of this function here, f of x, is x squared plus 1. I know that x is x minus 5. So that's all I'm working out. Now that's going to give me, well, if you're not sure, you can write out two brackets like this, because that's what x squared, x minus 5 all squared is. So it's going to give me x squared minus 5x, which is minus 10x, and then minus 5 times minus 5 is plus 25, and then I'm adding 1 because I've done all of that bit, which was all of that, and then it just says add 1, so I've added 1 on the end. So let's see what that gives me. I'll get x squared minus 10x, 25 add 1 is 26, and that's what we wanted to show that that equals that. So we've done that. Now in the second part of the question it says solve f of g of x equals g of f of x. And what you need to know about composite functions is the fact that even though they're dealing with the same equations, so we've got x squared plus 1 and x minus 5, this order is very important. So these two things are not the same thing. Okay, what we should do is use our answers to the first part of the equation. So first part of the question. So we're told, and we've shown anyway, that f of g of x equals this. So that f g of x we need to replace with all of that. Okay, so let's do that first. So that was x squared minus 10x plus 26, and it equals this bit here. All right, and that's what we need to work out. So like I said a minute ago, imagine that's where your x is. The x goes through the f first, and then it goes through the g. So it's a bit unusual, this, because you just sort of think, okay, you read it in the order that it's written in. But no, you start the x, it goes through the f function first, and then the output for f goes through the g. So let's have a look at that those functions again. So x this time goes through here, and therefore my output is now x squared plus 1. Alright, so wherever I see x, I'm going to replace it with x squared plus 1, and that's what I need to do here. So that's what I'm going to do. So instead of writing x minus 5, I'm going to write x squared plus 1, which is what the x stood for, and then I'm going to minus 5 from it. Okay, so let's simplify this. I've got x squared minus 10x plus 26, and this I know I can simplify, so that makes minus 4, so x squared minus 4. And I'm trying to solve it, so I'm trying to find out what the value of x is and show that it's equal. Okay, so I want to get the x's on one side, the numbers on the other. I'm going to start with this minus 4, Let's add 4 to both sides. So I've got x squared minus 10x. That makes 30 equals x squared. Notice when I've written this, I've written exactly underneath. I've written the number underneath the number so that I don't get confused and, write, if I wrote it over here, for example, I might write that as plus 4x squared or something silly if I'm feeling a bit stressed in the exam. So, my next natural move, we want to solve this, so I want to try and get all the x's on one side. If I take away my x squared from both sides, then I'm left with minus 10x plus 30 equals 0. I don't really like the minus 10x there, so I could, add 10x to both sides. So that then gives me 30 equals 10x. And therefore, I can then just solve that and say that x is 3, because if I divide both sides by 10, I get x equals 3. All right, so that's my value for x.